Yo, what up? It's your boy, JJ Stone, aka O Doctor. Another episode of Doc Tales. Woo! The number eludes me, but it'll be in the notes, and then you can get it. All the normal stuff. If you got money on Patreon, cool. You can throw me $1 or $2. If you're broke, that's fine. Just subscribe on YouTube, Facebook. I'm on Twitter, Instagram. Just go somewhere and act like you like me. Twitch. Periscope. It's not really a huge deal because if you don't have any money, I understand, but you clicking that button still helps me. So even if you're broke, you can show love and I'd appreciate it. But if you got money, throw it at me. I might shake it for you a little bit on the side. This is a show where we do interviews, interview cool people. This is a Digi friend. He's not even really my friend, but he is my friend because I don't know. I've never met him, but one day I will. Say what's up to the people, Patrick.
Hey, I'm really glad to be considered, first of all, your friend, even, digital friend, whatever, it's still a friend. Second of all, did you say you interview interesting people? I'm not sure I qualify, man.
It's somewhat interesting because
right.
I make up these friends things. Like I call some people party friends, like Becky Worley. Like we've been at events together and we know the same friends. We've literally never shaken hands, but like we know each other. You know what I mean? So it's like we have the same group. I was like, it's like, oh, we're party friends. I'm like, yeah, like we know each other, but we never like hung out or talked before. So we've done shows together. You've had me on your show. I find that very friendly. It's a silly mistake on your part, but it's still friendly.
It's weird that podcasting world because, at least we've been on shows together, but I've actually met people, I think, or at least been on shows with people where we realized like 10 minutes into talking that we never actually talked to one another, even online, but we had just listened to each other so much, each other's shows so much that it felt like we knew each other. So, I've listened to you quite a bit. So I feel we're on friendly terms. That's absolutely fair.
Yes. So you say your last name is Beja, right?
Beja, actually.
Beja.
Beja. It's originally probably from somewhere around Portugal, but it's traveled so much that now it's the French way that you have to pronounce it, and that's Beja.
Do you have a middle name?
I have a couple, yes.
What? Break it down. Tell me the whole name, full name.
All right, Patrick Yves Jacques Beja. So very French, even though I don't have a drop of French blood in my veins.
So what's your middle name?
So Yves is for, I don't know. It's
just Yves. Okay, so Yves' its own thing. That's not okay, I thought that was the whole thing. Okay, good. So now Yves. And
then Jacques, which is my grandfather's first name.
Okay, that fixes my whole question because I was like, what kind of name is Yves Jacques? Like, because I was putting it as one whole name, but if it's
no,
I was like, how do you get from Patrick to Yves Jacques? But if you give Patrick Yves Zach, I get that. Okay, that all sounds a lot better.
That works.
All right, I believe it. So where were you born?
I was born in Lebanon.
Lebanon?
Yeah. I was born in Lebanon 3 years before the war started. 2 or 3 years before the war started. My parents were, my dad was born in actually Palestine, but he was Jewish of Turkish and Greek parents. My mom is Christian, but was born in Egypt and grew up in Egypt until she was 13 or so, and then they had to leave because of the revolution.
One, good job getting out. Two, you got what I call the perfect mixture. We got all this crazy stuff going on over here, and I'm just like, everybody just needs to impregnate someone of the opposite sex and faith, and we can fix this thing in like 50 years. Like, so you already came pre-built with.
No, I know. That's like, and I've got everything. I'm like, so I grew up in France, so I'm very Western in my education. My history is kind of Middle Eastern, but my parents they're not really of Arab origins. They just grew up in that weird melting pot of a country that Lebanon was before it was turned upside down. And now I'm married to a Finnish woman, and I'm living most of my time in Finland. So I'm going north and, trying to spread the southern / Southern European, Western European, Middle Eastern, into the Scandinavian and Nordic countries. So I'm doing my part for multiculturalism.
That is the best thing I've heard today, because like I said, that's the way we fix stuff. It's always funny, you know, whenever I make a rant or I say something, you know, people nitpick things that you say. You could say in one instance, there's a lot of good white people that are helping the cause, whatever, and then you say these bad white people are like, oh, see, all bad. I was like, I just started the thing with the other white people, the people that helped, and then people call me racist and stuff like that, and I'm like, well, my daughter's half white, her mom's German, like, but I dislike white people, like, you know, you don't know, but people always nitpick things and try to make it to their own service. But I think mixing everything up and throwing everybody in the mashed potatoes and putting some butter in it will make everything better.
I think it brings you, you know, the worst thing you can have is, if you put it, you know, very aggressively, is to talk about things that you don't understand. And it's very easy. Everyone does it. And everyone does it to a different degree. And about other, you know, it's even the case with people who might accuse, I don't know, the more tolerant people might become intolerant sometimes about some things. But it gives you perspective when you actually experience other things. And that's something that's been a theme in my life. I've lived in a few different places. I've lived in Japan. And every time I've gone somewhere or actually talked to someone, I've realized, oh, well, my impression was somewhat a little bit, you know, correct on some things, but there's a lot of that I really assumed.
The bigger problem with here in America with that, averse to what you're talking about, is, so if you're in Los Angeles and you go up to Washington State, you're still in America. When I was in Germany, you could take the train, you can get to France, you could drop down to Italy if you wanted to. Like, in the same time frame it will take you to traverse the whole West Coast, you could hit 7 different countries and experience 7 different cultures. And then vice versa. You could go west or go east and have multiple different places to stop. In America, we're all just like in our own box, and there's nothing else in this box or close to it, except for Canada, which is, again, at the peak, and Mexico, which is at the bottom. There's no, you know what I'm saying? There's nothing in between for you to get to change. So most people don't leave or go outside the United States. And that is a big issue for learning other cultures and seeing the world.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of things there. I think even Canada is very Americanized compared to, you know, other countries. I'd say 2 things. First, Americans don't have the benefit of having the outside American culture influence, because anyone else, including Canada, but, you know, everyone else in Europe especially, you really have 2 cultures when you're born. You have your local culture, which is really important, and the American culture that permeates through movies, TV, music. Like, everyone has half of their pop culture, which is American. And that creates, you know, 2 things. Like, usually people speak 2 languages at least, most people and most young people. So there's definitely a benefit to having America as a reference, that where you can see there is something different. And I mean, everyone knows there are other cultures, but it's a different thing to actually experience it. And the other thing I would say, which I learned over the past few years, is actually to the contrary of that, how different America is from one place to the next. Because when you go from, you know, liberal elite, quote unquote, Los Angeles to the middle of the Rust Belt, it's a very different, just, you know, on the surface. And I think for me, at least, even having known as much as I did about America, I didn't realize how many places America is. It's not as different as countries in Europe, let's say, because there's still this Americanness, which is unifying everyone to an extent, but it's much more different than I thought. For me, everything was like basically kind of like Los Angeles, New York, Europe places, and it really isn't.
Yeah, it's a melting pot for sure, as they like to call it. So when you were a kid in school, what was your favorite subject?
I think Math, kind of. I was not very good in school.
You weren't good
I
at
was
school.
like, I wasn't very good. I was basically coasting. I think I'm intelligent enough, kind of, that I can do okay, just barely pass if I don't busy myself too much with it, if I don't worry too much about it. And then it ended up becoming a problem. What would be in American terms? Like 2 years before you graduate, I actually had to redo a year. And that was weird in many ways.
So
but
what that is being too smart for your own good. You're not smart enough to be a genius, but you're smart enough to know that I really don't have to do a lot of this stuff that I can still pass, and I can do just what I need to do because you already know what the target goal is. So you don't. I had a lot of that too. Like there were certain things where I have like a photographic memory, so I would get in trouble for not showing my work to stuff. So after a while, I was like, well, I already know the answers. So I would just get one of my friends and I copy their work. And then after a while, I just traded work with one of my friends. I really liked English and reading and literature and writing. My one friend was really good at math. I did his writing homework. He did my math homework. I didn't do math homework for like the last 3 years of high school because I just didn't have to do it.
Wow.
I knew the stuff, but I just never did any of the homework. You know what I mean? I still passed all the tests on my own and everything. It's just, again, once I figured out a way to scam the system, I was scamming the system. So it's one of those things where you're almost too smart for your own good, and you just like try to figure out a way to get by.
I didn't. So I mean, there was another factor, I guess, for me. It was I went to live. My parents, for work, went to live in Cyprus and back in Lebanon when I was like 13 or so. That was a difficult adjustment. You're just coming into your own, and as a teenager, you have your friends and everything, and then
they throw you into the pit, and you got to start all over again. And
exactly.
And everybody's in a clique, and everybody's got their groups, and
it's a different culture. You don't have the same, references and stuff, and but yeah. So at that point, I was like, even my clever tricks weren't enough to. I think I was not very well adjusted at that when we came back to Paris. But that second year, I mean, the second time I did that year, it was awesome because it did a lot for, I think, my self-esteem. Because the first time I was not getting it. Like I was really not even coasting. I was like always a little bit under the water. And for that second time I did it, I was always expecting for it to become hard. And that second year, it never became hard. It was like I was acing all the tests all the way through. Now, okay, fair enough. It was the second time. So, when I do it 2 times, I'm really good at it. But,
and it's also, you're more adjusted by that point, too. Because as you said,
think so, yeah.
being uprooted and all those things and the emotions of it and being a teenager, as resilient as younger people are, there's also other triggers that create outliers for other things that make them compensate. And sometimes education is doing that. So I get that. Do they have proms and such in
France? Not really. No, we don't really even have cliques. I mean, I certainly wasn't one of the popular kids, but it's not. We don't have. I don't know if it's as pronounced in the U.S. as it is in movies and TV shows, but the cliques are not as. We don't really have that, and we don't have the proms, and we don't have the jocks, and we don't have the geeks. Everyone's a little bit more similar, I think, in our high schools. And I still was like a very unpopular kid. I was, well, I don't know about unpopular, but I had like pimples all over my face. It was terrible. I had like these huge glasses, and I liked computers, and I would be the definition of a geek for sure. But it wasn't like I wasn't really being picked on too much. It was acceptable, but we don't have proms or things like that. I couldn't talk to girls though.
That's hard. So you don't have like any kind of dances or anything like that?
Well, you have parties like which your friends organize every Saturday or something, and you go there. Yeah, see, of course, yeah.
That's I kind of remember that because when I was in Germany, that was like a thing that everybody, like every weekend there were gatherings, like, and I know people do it in general, so it sounds like you're saying, but it was like literally every weekend, 2 days out of the week, people would there'd be 20 people at somebody's place, there'd be 20 people at somebody else's place the next week. And I was like, man, what do you got? Like, this is what we do. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and so obviously there's people that go clubbing and all that kind of stuff, but this is just like, this is generally what everybody does. And I remember somebody saying like, yeah, we don't do a lot of the dances and stuff, because the girl I was there with was an exchange student. She's like, yeah, like you guys have homecoming, prom, like we have like 3 or 4 dances a year where the kids go, and they start that at like the 8th grade. Or younger now, actually. I think it's like 6th grade. They start having middle school. They have a middle school dance now, where you know the girls just go jump around with each other, and the boys all sit there and watch them. You know,
that sounds like what I was doing. Like I was watching, not daring to go and dance or asking anyone. But we certainly had those. Like you would go to someone's place and hang out and maybe have a little bit of alcohol if you were a little bit older, and you know, pretend like you're all cool and adult, even though you have no idea what anything means about anything in life. But yeah, you would go and put on some music, and whoever's parents weren't in town that weekend, you would go there and hang out. But that's the way we do it. There aren't any formal things, so there's not as much pressure, I guess, to find a date to the dance, and you know, oh, no one asked you yet, or you didn't ask anyone yet. So that is not as, I think, life in high school, at least in France, from our experience, it's not that kind of pressure. We don't have that. Socially, it's a little bit easier. Not easy, but a little bit easier.
So, you ever been in a fight?
I've been beat up. I don't know if that counts.
It does count. It does count. You were in a fight.
Well, okay,
you lost. That's all. People,
no,
boxers get in a fight. They lose something. They were still in a fight. You was in a fight.
No. Actually, it wasn't really a fight. It was like we were coming out of a McDonald's with a friend, and there were some thugs, some hoodlums who came to accost us, and they were like, oh, hey, I like your shoes. Can I borrow your shoes? And you were like, no, you can't. You know, I was like 16. And all of a sudden, just everything goes black. I fall down and wake up in the paramedics' ambulance, basically. What had happened was that my friend, my cousin, had started saying, you know, get off of me, I don't want to give you my shoes. And one of the bad people had apparently been taking some kind of taekwondo lessons, and he basically he jumped off the ground, started basically flying, and jump kicked me in the head and from behind.
See, that's a cheap shot.
Anything. Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't even see him. Yeah. He was from behind, jumped up, kicked me in the head. I fell down, blood everywhere. And that was I think it was the one fight I actually got into. There was another.
Where did they get your shoes?
No, they didn't. They run away. They were like, holy crap, that guy's bleeding everywhere. We were in trouble.
Victory for
they were
you.
Pretty young.
Victory for you. That's a victory.
I guess so, yeah. I managed to scare them off with my blood.
I tell you what, you know how many people got beat up and still lost their stuff? You took that kick like a champ, even though you couldn't handle it, and you walked out of that hospital with your shoes on. So I consider that a victory, my friend. That was a victory.
All right. There's another victory that I think had. It wasn't a fight, but I was with another friend on the Champs-Élysées back when, you know, the main avenues in Paris, very well known. I'm sure you know the Champs-Élysées. I'm an idiot.
Who doesn't?
Yeah. But there were a few years where it was a little bit of a sketchy place in some areas of that avenue. And so same story. We were being followed by a couple of people, and they started heckling us. And my friend was getting angry, and he was like, you know, ready to fight. And there was one who was really aggressive and one who was trying to, you know, calm him down. And basically the one friend who realizes his friend is being an ass and trying to calm him down. And at some point, they started speaking. They were, Arabic, not Arabic, but like Northern African origin. And one of them started saying to him, you know, stop it. They're Arabs. You know, trying to calm his friend down, like, look at him, they're Arabs. And he was like speaking in Arabic, you know, and his friend was like, what are you talking about? They're not Arabs. And since I was born in Lebanon, my parents' second language was or third language was Arabic. I can pick up just a little bit of Arabic, so I understood what they were talking about. And so I answered to them, what does it matter if I'm an Arab or not? In French, because I couldn't say that in Arabic. And they were like, oh, shit, that guy really is, he kind of is an Arab. And I was like, all right, let's, and they settled down because one of their own whatever.
Yeah.
And so we avoided the fight and managed to get away without punching anything. So that's kind of a victory.
See another reason to blend heritages, languages, spaces. So that way you could just appeal to mass people. Because you never know. I'm learning white supremacist speak as we speak right now. I'm trying to be down with the team. My name's Owen. That's a very Caucasian name.
Yeah, I think you could blend in pretty well.
Pretty much, that's one of those things where. So I moved to the town I'm living in now to go to high school, and the first week I was here, I was riding my bike around town just trying to get the lay of the land or whatever. And these two kids started like, yeah, what's up? And I started to talk to them because I don't know anybody. And they're like, let me get your bike. And I was like, no. So I was like 4 blocks away from my house where the one kid was punching me in the side of my head.
Jeez.
And the other kid was holding the handlebar of my bike so I couldn't just ride off. And so I literally just walked to my bike getting punched in the face for 4 blocks until I got to my driveway. And I didn't let them take my bike. And I was staying with my aunt at the time. She comes home and like I'm just beaten up. And she's like, "What happened to you?" And I'm like, "Oh, these kids tried to steal my bike." She's like, "They get the bike?" I'm like, "No." And so, literally, she drove around town trying to find these kids, and we found the one kid, the kid that was hitting me. Turns out he's my cousin.
What?
His aunt and his mom, my aunt and his mom know each other. Like we're like. Not first cousins, we're probably like second cousins. But
right.
When she rolled up, she was like, Shannon, and what did they call him? His name was Shannon, but they called him, I want to say his nickname was like Reggie or something like that. Like he had like a guy's name, but his real name was Shannon, and nobody ever knew his name was Shannon. And my aunt was like, he tried to steal his bike, and his mom was like, what? And so literally his mom was like, go outside. And you guys, you can fight it out. And his mom was like, and by fight it out, I mean, you're going to let him punch you in the face 10 times, and you're not going to do anything about it. And I'm just sitting there like, I don't really just want to punch this kid in the face. You know what I mean? Like, and she was like, go ahead, punch him. And I punched him in his face. And
you did?
I punched him in his face like a good 5 or 6 times before they were like, okay, that's good. Oh, my God. Because, I mean, I hit him pretty hard. Because by the time like, once you start hitting, well, you don't know, but once you start hitting somebody, it's real easy to like lose like control,
right. Yeah.
Of things. So I hit him like 2 or 3 times, and by like the 4th or 5th time, like, all right, that's good. And then we were semi-friends after that. But it was just crazy because I'm like, my aunt's like tiny. Like when we go around places, people would like look to me like I was like her bodyguard or something because she was just so small and I was so big. So we get there and I'm like, she's like, yo, I was like, yo, what are you doing? You're like 40. How are you trying to fight? It's a kid. And then it was just one of those weird experiences. Like again, somebody trying to steal your stuff. Yeah. It just happened to be.
But you kept the bike. Kept the bike.
Like I said, I call that a victory. Yes, yeah. I've been in too many fights actually. Usually because I'm only trying to protect other people. But that one's one of the ones. I was going to ask,
were you in other fights?
Oh man, I've been in all kinds of good fights. I was hooking up with this girl who used to date a guy, and the guy didn't like it. And I'm sitting there at my locker, and I just see her eyes light up like saucers. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? And he had a padlock, and I guess he was coming down the hallway, just swung. Boom, hit me right in my eye. My eye instantly swells. You hear everybody in the hallway like, oh, my God. And I look up, and my eye was just huge. I couldn't see it, but I'm looking at everybody. Everybody's like, oh. And the look on everybody's face sent me crazy. I picked him up, started choke slamming him into the locker, doing all kinds of fun stuff. My other fun one was it's always predicated around girls or like my gay friends that I would stick up for. A girl was wearing my jacket, back in the day, little junior neo-Nazi, did not like FUBU clothes and black people clothes like that. So she was white, and he was like, what are you doing wearing this black stuff? He took my jacket off and threw it in a trash can. He didn't know it was my jacket, to be fair. But I'm like, first of all, why are you throwing anybody's jacket in the trash can? Now you threw my jacket in the trash can. And when I went up to him, I was like, yo, take my jacket out of the trash can. He's like, no, I'm not going to do it. One of my buddies, Brian Rico, sitting at the table, he's like, why don't you pour milk over his head? And I'm like, and everybody's like, you won't do it. So then I just picked up a chocolate milk and I poured it like super slow over his head. And he was smaller than me. We started to fight. I threw him on the table. He had bagel bites on his back. He had like these bagel things stuck onto his back. And I didn't really try to fight him because we were in school. And so I let him go. And a teacher came and pulled him away. And I started walking away with another teacher. He got away from that teacher, picked up a chair, and threw it. Now I'm sitting there covering the teacher, and I got hit in the back with 2 chairs. That teacher really didn't bother me for the rest of the school year or the rest of the 4 years. It's like, I remember you took that chair from me. I'm like, word, I did take a chair for you. So I
what happened to the kid?
Oh, he got suspended. He got suspended. Okay. I got in-service detention. Technically, I started it, but by the point he's throwing chairs at people and all that kind of stuff, they kind of overlooked the fact that I poured milk over his head. So yeah, I've been in way too many fights. It just
outside
happens.
of school as well.
Oh yeah. I'll tell you one more because this show isn't about me. The show isn't about me.
I like it.
We're at the pool hall and there's like 4 of us in the car. And there's like all these guys at the pool hall, and they're probably drunk or whatever. My one friend, he's gay. He's like flamboyantly gay, and he has a nice car, just whatever. And these guys just did not like him. Like, oh, look, group of fags out, blah 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 blah. And all my buddies are like, man, I'm not trying to deal with these guys. So we go to leave, and I guess they saw the car we pulled up in. They had put bottles underneath his wheel well. So when we pulled out, we just heard all this popping and whatever. And we're like, what the fuck is that? We get out of the car. There's glass underneath, and they're all standing in the doorway. And all my friends are just like, man, are we about to fight? And I'm like, yeah. Long story short, there's 6 of them, 4 of us. And I took 2 of them and ended up taking a third because my one friend was just getting beat up. And, yeah. But did you guys beat them up in the end? Yeah, we won. And the worst part about it was one of our friends was hiding the whole time. And I'm just like, so I took on 3, they took on 1, you took on half of 1 and ran away. Like, you should have took that ass whooping like a man. That's what you do. You sit here with your friends and you get beat up if you get beat up. But yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't fault anyone for being like actually scared about getting in a fight.
We just razzed them about it. It's not like we kicked them out of the friend group or anything, or like, you know what I mean? We didn't have a trial over it, but it's still like, dude, come on, man. Look, you know, like I said, sometimes you gotta take a loss, and that's like I said, I got punched in the face, you got kicked in the back of the head, but you kept your shoes. You know, sometimes you have to take that butt whooping to keep things moving. All right, so you're married.
Yes.
Where'd you meet your wife?
In Paris. We met in 2009. She was in Paris for just like 3 months or so. And so do you want the short version or the long version?
Tell me whatever version. We got time. Tell me version.
All right. So I had a group of friends, good friends, that we would always hang out together, international, like people from different countries. One of those friends had a friend who would be coming to stay in Paris for a couple of days. And he asked me if I could host him for a couple of days. My place was like tiny, 20 square meters. I don't know if you know square meters, but that's like a meter is like 3 feet. So 20 square meters is not, it's like one room.
Yeah.
So hosting that guy for those 2 nights was not a tiny thing. It was someone I didn't know. But he was a friend, so I said yes to host his friend, whatever. Turns out, so he gets here, he's going to be sleeping in a sleeping bag, and he goes out for the evening, and he's like, hey, I'm going to go and meet my sister and some friends in Paris somewhere. Do you want to come? I'm like, sure, I'll come join you afterwards. Turns out that guy had spent a bunch of time in the Nordic countries with the law student associations partying everywhere around Scandinavia. And one of those people he had been partying with, like that was 3 or 4 years before. One of those people happened to be someone he got so drunk. They drink so much, it's ridiculous. He got so drunk, they went back to someone's friends, and he puked in the closet of my wife, the woman that was going to be my wife. And of course he was very angry, but it sort of made her remember him. And she was in Paris when he was visiting, and they kept in touch through Facebook. He told her to meet up at that place, and she was like, yeah, all right, okay, whatever. She went there, I went there as well, and first time I saw her, all right, movies, poems, songs, instant love, birds chirping, all of this. First time I saw her, I'm not kidding you, I fell in love immediately. Like love at first sight. I don't know why, how, whatever. That's what happened. So we sort of hung out a little bit, tried to meet up again over the next 2 days. It didn't quite happen. But before the guy who was staying at my place left, I was like, dude, you have to arrange something so I see her again. And he did, thankfully, making up for the puking in the closet. And we exchanged phone numbers, and the rest is history. She went. She stayed in Paris for a couple of months, 3 months extra, which was enough for us to build enough of a relationship that when she went back to Finland, we did the long distance relationship for a while, and that was it.
So, how long until you proposed? Were you guys dating?
I proposed a year and a half, about.
Okay.
A year and a half. But I knew like 3 months in, I had a very strong suspicion that I was going to ask her to marry me. Like 3 to 6 months in, I was like, yeah, she's going to be my wife, or I'm going to try and make it happen.
Make the attempt. How'd you ask her?
I asked her, so I'm staying in her family's country house now. And you can see the bookshelf behind. That's not mine.
Someone's well-read. It's just not you.
Yeah, just not me. Someone is intelligent in the family. Actually, it's my wife. It's not me. And so she loves this place. That's where she grew up. And I got a ring. And I was visiting in Finland. We were still, at that point, we had been in the same city for like 3 months, but then it was long distance. So we were going, traveling back and forth, but we had never actually lived together. So I traveled to Finland. We were coming here for a weekend, and I actually asked her dad if I could ask her to marry me. Asking the permission.
That's a smart move. Yep, that's how you do it.
Which he didn't get it, because in Nordic countries, like, that's not done. Like that doesn't happen. He was like, "What? Why are you asking me?" They're very, equalitarian, women's rights and everything.
Yeah.
And so I asked him, so he knew it was going to happen. And the country house is like a couple of hours away from Helsinki. And as we were driving there, he was calling like 3 times, and he was like, "So are you there yet? Are you there?" And she was like, "Why do you keep calling?" She didn't understand. It was super weird. But yeah, so we were here, we had dinner, and after that I started talking about how much I loved her and how much she meant to me and how she was super important in my life and everything. And she was like, "Yeah, okay, that's nice." She didn't quite get it, until I actually got the ring out. And yeah, so I got the ring out, asked in Swedish, because she's Swedish speaking, and she said yes, and it's been absolute happiness ever since.
So the moral of the story is, be nice and let people throw up in your closet. Be nice and share your space with. See, how many people have had their misconnection, don't even know it. Somebody's like, "Oh, I need a place to crash. Can I crash on your couch?" And they're like, I don't really think I'm going to let this guy, And then that could have been the moment that led to the moment that could have been your moment. So I think that everybody should let everybody do whatever they want when somebody asks them to do it, because you never know, right? Like,
Everything.
Like what would have happened if you would have just been like, dude, my house is way too small. He's got to have another friend, somebody with a bigger flat than me. Like, I just really can't do it. Like, your whole life. Yeah,
I could imagine. He was a really good friend, so I really did it for my friend, not for the guy that I didn't know. But
and that's what I mean.
So many things could have gone wrong. I mean, she was in Paris for 3-4 months, and that was it. Yeah, and it's like it's almost like there's someone with a grand plan and design somewhere putting all of those things together for it to work out.
Or you were just a good guy and you got lucky. Because again,
that is also a possibility.
Because again, it's one of those things where you know how many things in life that we don't think about that just cause and effect happen. You know what I mean? Oh, I got a car accident today at the movie theater. What if I didn't go to the movies that day?
Yeah,
if I just would have went and got a later movie, that probably wouldn't even happen. You know, but it does. But that's a good story. That's a good way to meet the love of your life. That's a good way to propose, by the way, because I asked other people that, and some people don't have good stories, and they got to make it up at anniversary time 10 years down the line and do something special. And I think, see, you had love at first sight. So movies ruin a lot of this stuff for people. Because you look on social media, people are proposing in air balloons and spaceships and like... They're inside of a dark tunnel with like one crystal candle light, and it's like, you know, they got an orchestra singing outside. It's hard to just regular old propose to somebody anymore. I mean, you had a dangum countryside home villa that you went out to. The sun was setting. Probably had some good wine. You
magical.
See, it's hard to get that.
No, but I mean, honestly, none of this really matters, and I'm sure I know it's weird. It's a little bit of a tangent, but before I met my wife, I really wasn't sure about marriage. You know, there's this whole image that, you know, marriage is tying people together and you can never get away. And it's like, it's all these negative things people say about marriage, and you don't need to get married and it's true. But I really felt like marriage was almost kind of a whatever chore. And now, everyone I know, my friends who are married, are super happy to be married, you know? Maybe not everyone, but most of the people are happily married and love their spouse, and they're you know, having the time of... They're like, I would never want to not be married to that person. So I don't know what it is, but there's this weird image about marriage, or like actually being in love, that is corny. I think those people haven't really met the person that they are absolutely 100% in love with. And if you haven't, then you're always wondering. If you have, you know, like there's no wondering anymore. You're like, yes, that is what it is, and I'm certain of it. And I don't know. But when you have that, it doesn't really matter that much, the proposal and the things and if you have that person, then the rest doesn't really matter. And I think for a lot of people, marriage is like a little bit of a hindrance to doing what you want. And of course, there's always, you know, living with someone, you have to share your life, and you can't do 100% of what you want when you're alone. But one thing which I think made me fall even more in love with my wife is that she's her own person and I'm my own person. And if I tell her, hey, I'm going to do that thing for a couple of hours, she's not going to get weird about it. And French women get super jealous and super possessive about their boyfriends. And I hate that. And conversely, you know, I'm there for her, obviously, and we spend a lot of time together and everything, but there's no weird jealousy or possessiveness. And I think that poisons a lot of relationships. So it's very easy to be happy with my wife because we're cool. Whatever, you know, everything's fine. We just do our thing and we do our thing together. And yeah, so that's a tangent. But, you know, I think it's important for people to realize that you can be happy with someone forever, being stuck to one another, if you don't get crazy about the relationship. It's very easy to be happy together, I think.
So let me anti-tangent you. I'm going to switch the main screen for the most part. Okay. First of all, you're nothing but a Frenchy, softy, lovey love. That was a croissant with a love biscuit in it. You ain't fooling nobody telling me what love is. So first things first, love is love. And the problem with marriage anymore is it's just a piece of paper that says we're together. I can get that annulled. I can change that. We can get divorced. Back in the day, you were married, you were stuck with that person to death, whatever. So whether you liked them or not, you were kind of like stuck there. Divorce was not a big thing you could do. I mean, Henry VIII rewrote religious history so he can get new wives. It wasn't a thing to do. Now people can switch. If you love somebody, whether you get married, or I know people that have been together 15, 20 years in a relationship and never have been married, and they're happy and in love and all that kind of stuff. Because once you're in love, you're in love. The paperwork in the marriage is just the title that does that stuff for you. The other issue here in America, I just had this conversation over the weekend, why don't people get married as much as they used to? Well, financially, it's cheaper to be single, especially when you're filing taxes and you have kids, than it is to be married. When you're married, it's almost like you're punished because they look at you like some super corporation that's got all this money. You're like, no, we're still broke, B. Like, she's got a job, I got a job, we got 3 kids, we have no money. So when you go to file taxes and get the tax return for the children, oh, well, they're a family, they don't get shit. But if you're a single mom, they give you like $3,500 per kid. You know, I literally, because I'm nosy. So a family of 4, married. The wife is a stay-at-home wife. She works on the side. She cleans houses and babysits, so she makes a good amount of money every year on her own. But the husband's the breadwinner. They have 4 kids. They get back maybe $1,500 at tax time. Adversely, my buddy who is with the mother of his child, and they've been together for 15, 20 years, not married, have 4 children, they get back $12,000 at tax time for those kids. And again, she doesn't really work. He's the breadwinner. That statement alone is like, man, every year they get $12,000 versus the family.
They can't be in the same financial situation if they get that much of a difference. Really?
Both the men are. I'm trying not to just put their business out there. Both the men are in construction. They both make almost the exact same hourly wage. The only difference is that one's married and one's not. That's why I use this as an example of that situation.
All right. Well, that is. Can we swear on Dr.
Yeah, you can say what you want to say.
All right, that's fucked up.
Yeah, it is.
That is fucked up. I agree.
That was the whole conversation we had about why young people don't, things like that. It was like, some of it's a financial move. And health insurance, when that couple that's married, they're spending $700 out of his check on insurance. The couple that's separated, the woman gets assistance because she has so many kids. When you're married and you have those many kids, you don't get that same assistance because you're, again, whatever the law, the rule is, because you're a couple family, you get that. When you're not, there's just so many things that, yes, it's not fair. The basic statement I ended up talking to the people was, I said, look, if you're rich, you scam the system. If you're broke, you know how to scam the system. If you're middle class and working your ass off, you're getting fucked by the government. And they're all just sitting there looking at me like, angry. And I'm like, look, you get angry at Ray Ray and Pookie for getting all this money from the government, but you don't get mad at Walmart for getting $1 billion subsidies every year. I'm like, those are the things you should be mad about. Like the guy who's scamming the system and they're broke and they get $10,000 a year for their kids or whatever. They don't have anything. So you're mad at them for scamming the system when the president of the United States says only suckers pay their taxes. And they're all just looking at me like, well, you're right. I was like, yeah. I was like, why does no one ever get mad at the ultra rich, but they get mad at the people who, they bought an iPhone with their whatever money. I'm like, it's just an iPhone. These other people out here buying countries. Like, their mentality about the thing is different. But marriage is just here now. Marriage is almost a hindrance to you for the piece of paper. If you love somebody, you love them. So I'm with you on the love. I love love. Love is good. I've been in love. I know exactly what you're talking about. I know what love is. So love is good.
Okay, I'll amend some of the things I said. But
that's only here in America. I don't know how it is over there. I don't know how taxes
So
and things
basically,
go?
I think so. We have civil unions, which are basically gives you 99% of the same rights as marriage, and it's basically just go sign a paper at the city hall. So that's very easy. It's almost like a marriage, but it's super easy to do, super easy to stop. It's just for all of those administrative purposes. And I don't want to make it seem like I'm implying everyone who loves each other or who whatever should get married. That's not really what I was trying to say. If you don't want to get married and that's your thing, to be living together, unmarried, and you love each other, or even you don't love each other, to each their own. I'm just saying that for me, getting married was awesome. It always felt until then like maybe married people felt it was kind of a chore, or at some point it became a problem. But for me, I mean, I've only been married for a few years. Maybe it's going to become terrible after a while. I don't think so.
No. Don't let me corrupt your heart. You stay over there with your French bread, and you just.
I am pure-hearted and French. French. But I mean. Yeah, the thing is, getting married, and I think a lot of people agree, was, it's that weird, you want to scream it to the world that you love that person, and that might be too romantic. But for me and for us, that was a little bit of that public declaration of what we think at this point is going to be eternal love. And it felt nice to do it, and it felt very like the right thing to do for us. Now,
and love is love. Like the mother of my child, we got engaged, and then it fell apart after we had our kid together, so we never ended up getting married. But I wanted to marry her. I wanted to have a family. I didn't want to have my child grow up in a broken home. I thought I picked a good person. She is a good person. I always tell people all the time, she's a good person. She's just not my person. And, things happen.
How old were you?
29, 30. And we had been together for 7 years.
Okay. Because when I met my wife, I was, how old? 35, 36? Yeah, something like that. A little bit under 35. So I think that also helped me knowing what I wanted. And she's much younger than I am. But at least for me, it helped me know what I wanted and what I didn't want. So that's almost cheating a little bit.
But it's not, again, it's the same thing we were saying. We had met when we were, in our early 20s, but we don't want to be like the other people who were now divorced in the middle of our relationship. We had friends that got engaged right out of college, 21, 22. By the time we're in our fourth year, they're now getting divorced, and we're like, shoot, good thing we never got married. You know what I mean? They didn't even make it 3 years. So by the seventh year,
you don't know what you want when you're 22. I mean, I would
again,
maybe some people,
and maybe you do, but again, literally, like I can think of 5 off the top of my head. We went to 5 weddings, and only 2 of them are still married till this day. So that's like,
I guess that's the national average.
That's a good 15 years of marriage, and it's almost 60-40 pretty much. And we just didn't want that. And then once we got engaged, and then everything was cool. And then when she had a baby, hormones and all that kind of stuff, she changed as a person, and I didn't change.
Really?
Yeah, she changed. She went into like super mom mode and became like literally like almost a whole other person. And we ended up going to like counseling because I was trying to save the relationship, whatever. And the counselor literally was like, she's like, he needs to go counseling on his own. This group counseling isn't working. And the counselor said, well, I think you need counseling because you've known him for 8 years now, and he's always been A, B, and C. You fell in love with A, B, and C. He's that. You've changed now that you're a mom, and you want him to change. He's not really going to change. So you're sitting here trying to.
Did she realize she had changed?
Again, not really, and in her mind, her changes were adult positive changes. So, long story short, again, stuff about myself. We were in a situation where that's when all this social media stuff was going on, and I was doing my shows before anybody else was doing shows. Before YouTube, like I was getting 500,000 views, and I'm sitting in my room making videos. And she's like, "Why are people watching you? Who's watching you? Like, what are you doing?" And in her mind, she thought that I was like. It's almost like she thought I went and opened up a bar and was spending all of my time and money at this bar, and I can lose our money and it would affect our home. I'm like, look, I'm doing something that keeps me in the house. I'm not out drinking at a bar, going out clubbing, or leaving home. I'm at the house, and the cost is minimal. It's the internet connection. I already had a computer and a camera. It's just me. But in her mind, it was like, well, he's trying to do this side business, and I don't know. She conflated it with like how men just try to go have their dreams and go do stuff and put their family in jeopardy. And she just couldn't understand. She couldn't grasp the concept of social media and the internet and all that kind of stuff. And she thought I was crazy, you know. And now, look, everybody's doing it, you know. So it was one of those weird time frames. But I believe in love. Love is a great thing. And when you find your person, it's great. And it's happy, and it's cool, and you're right.
Well, I feel very lucky. I feel.
Oh, you definitely. Like I said, you were one inconvenience moment away from not having the love of your life come into your life. You go to sleep tonight with a smile on your face. Go to sleep tonight with that smile on your face, knowing how lucky you are. You are very, very lucky.
We both realize how lucky we are, and we repeat it to each other every day.
Right?
We're
actually,
definitely not.
You're right. That dude should get like a bottle of wine every year on your anniversary, because technically he's the glue that brings it all together. Because you got to think, he threw up in her closet. She could have easily just been like, "Fuck you, dude." No. Just no.
Yeah,
but she was a good enough person to like, if things happen, it's fine. Oh, another side note story. I got a friend in the same situation, but he didn't puke in somebody's closet. He peed in his friend's closet. And when I found out that he peed in the closet, when I found out he was drunk, you know, he peed in the closet, and I'm still like, yo, why is this guy still hanging out with you guys? You know, now he's been a lifelong family friend still to this day. But I'm like, you just go hang out with the dude that peed in your closet. I would not have a friend to pee. That's probably why I haven't found the love of my life now. I just be cutting people off. I can't. I know I'm not doing it.
Oh, dude, let people pee in your closet.
That's why I'm not happily married like yourself. So that's a huge issue. So you travel a lot.
Try to, yeah.
What's your favorite place you've been to?
I love the U.S. I've been there many times, have many friends in America. It's almost like, you know, you're talking about the internet thing. I have like half my life. I make my living off of internet stuff, and half my life is spent on the internet with Americans, I feel. So that's a big part of it. But beyond that, I love Japan. I've lived in Japan for a few years. I've studied Japanese language and culture at university. And like last year, we spent our honeymoon in Japan. And last year, since I can do my work over the internet, and she was doing her PhD, we went to live in Japan for 3 months, just because, you know, we arranged it, rented out our apartment and everything. And I love Japan. It's an amazing country. I hate it too in some ways, but I love it as well.
I love Japan. I've only spent 14 days there. I need to get back at some point. But I love Japan too. The thing about Japan right now is I just want to go over there and find women to impregnate. They don't have enough kids there. Like, they need their youth is dying out, and everything I ever hear all the time, even from my friends, is like, even my friends that know better, they're like, look, I'm just too busy to be having a family. And I'm like, just have the kid and like put them out in the street. Just have the kid.
At some point, it becomes a public societal service.
Yeah.
I mean, in Japan, they're crazy. I mean, it's social awkwardness and I live in Finland. I know about social awkwardness, but Japanese people, they're like, they don't have sex, they don't meet people, they don't hang out with people of the opposite sex. It's weird. And I've lived there. It wasn't as bad when I was there, but it was already kind of strange.
Yeah, it's super weird, especially when you go from that I guess it's just culture, but that phenomenon, I don't even want to call it the culture, because they have so much rich culture there, but whatever's going on there, as far as everybody being shy and in their groups and in their segments. When you go to China, when I was going to China, there were women that were aggressive. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm walking down the street and they're like, one, I'm black, so they just know I'm not. They know I'm American, or I'm not dark enough to be. I'm not dark enough to be African, because it's a really weird thing there. Like, everybody that I saw that was black was either like American or African. There wasn't like I could just tell the difference. So there was really dark skinned people there, and then there were like light skinned people there. So yeah, if you were dark skinned, they were, are you from Africa? I'm light skinned. You're from America,
right.
And the way the people are, especially the women are going after it. Like I was wearing a LeBron James jersey, and I had women on the street. Hey James, and I'm just like, what is going on? I mean, again, I'm a bigger dude. I'm cute for a fat guy, but I am not the most attractive dude on this street. But and then you go to Japan and you look at somebody in their face, and women just put their heads down. You're like, wait, am I going to steal your purse? What happened? Like, I feel like I'm in an elevator with a white woman. Like, what's going on?
Oh, they are. I mean, it's getting better, but yes. It is like they are very racist in Japan. You know, island culture. And when I first went there, it was like, but again, we were talking about people not knowing, not being familiar with things. When I first went there, it was in the early 90s. Literally, I would come across someone who wasn't Japanese in Tokyo, not even in small towns, in Tokyo, and we would nod at each other, going like, oh, hey, so you're not from here either. All right. It was that rare that you would come across someone from outside of Japan. So they don't know. And, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if some of those people that you came across in Japan that, you know, they turned their gaze away because they're just shy. But I'm sure some of them were like, oh, my God, it's scary black man.
Yeah. And not only that, I'm big, so I get it. That's the other thing too. Like I'm only 6 foot, but I'm just a big guy. So my presence does a lot of that stuff. When I went to China for the first time, we were going through customs, and for some reason the guy was holding me up, and I couldn't understand what he was saying. He was holding my passport. He would not let me through, and then everybody from the plane was going through, and I mean everybody, and I'm the last person. Now I'm starting to think, again, I didn't even do anything wrong, but I'm thinking like, there are drugs in my bag? Did somebody slip drugs in my bag? Because you watch all this stuff on TV, and you know, people use people as mules, and I'm like, well, who's the girl I was talking to on the airplane? Like, did somebody set me up? Like, I'm going through all this shit, like just freaking out. And then the guards all get out of their posts. There's like 11 of them, and they all come to my station. I'm like, I'm going to die or go to jail. What the fuck is going on? And so the one guy spoke English, and he was like, football, wrestling? I'm like, oh, you think I'm somebody important? Oh, God. Oh, okay. You know, so they all wanted pictures and shit. I was
really
freaking, yeah, they wanted pictures. And so we took pictures, you know what I mean? I got tattoos. I was actually wearing a jersey, so my arms were showing. So I got like Asian stuff right on my arm and whatever. And they was like, oh, you very bad man. You very bad man. And apparently it was supposed to say bad boy from like a rap label out here. And to them, it said destroyer, the destroyer. And so I kept hearing that my whole trip. I was there for like a month and a half. And there was again, it was just totally different. I stayed on at Shanghai University. I stayed on campus because, again, that same girl from Germany, foreign exchange student, she was there. And the guard there, you know, military guard, their green outfit, whatever, she's like, this guy doesn't speak to anybody. I come in there, and he, like, waves at me. When I go to leave, he comes in and has somebody translate because he wants to talk to me. We took pictures. And she's like, I've been here for a year. That guy doesn't talk to anybody. Like, what is going on? And I'm like, people just like me. And, you know, every time we went out to eat, I didn't pay to eat.
What?
It was, dude, because, again, it's a different thing about culture. Like, everybody thought I was a football player or a wrestler or something. They just assumed that I was, you know what I mean? So
he's black, he's big, he's probably a football player.
Yes. We went out to eat, and, you know, we're trying to pay, and there were like 10 people at my table, and they wouldn't bring us the bill. And she's like, I don't know what's going on. She's like, I'm going to talk to a manager. And then the manager apparently is the owner, who's the chef. The chef came out, again, translating, asked me how my food was, if I liked it, how everything was. And he asked me for pictures, took pictures, and then comped everybody's meal, like 10 people's meal. Like,
yeah, it can't just be that you're black and big. There must be like someone you look like in an ad somewhere in the country.
If it was, I couldn't figure it out. I mean, and it's not like they called me somebody else's name. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, they were just asking who I was and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, again, I'm like, what is going on? I was also in a major city.
Maybe they were just trying to promote multiculturalism in China, and they were like, dude, there's a black man here. We have to make it stay awesome so that more people come.
Man, I tell you, I tell people all the time, like, especially when you go to the city, I also traveled outside the city, and I didn't get that same fanfare outside the city. Outside the city, it was the same, who cares?
Okay.
You know what I mean? What's going on? But when I was in the city, it was a love affair, and I loved it. So that was cool. So we're pretty much done with the interview part. I'm gonna keep you for like 10 more minutes if I can, so we can talk about the world. That's still part of your show. I tried very hard to keep us not talking about politics. I wasn't gonna let you suck me in to your vacuum. I think I did a good enough job and got some good intel out of you. So, did you see about Charlottesville this weekend?
I thought you didn't want to talk about that.
Oh, we're at the end of this now. We're over. You and I have had our fun. We talked about love and your wife and your travels and getting kicked in the head. We got all the intel on you that we need. That's what I said. I was like, we can spend a good 10 minutes just talking about what's going on over here. Did you see it?
I mean, so there are two things about this. First, I think almost everyone has reacted the proper way. Everyone is outraged. Everyone has expressed their outrage about what's happening. There are always, whatever happens, there are always going to be some people that are, happy/unhappy about something. So there are always going to be white supremacist, racist, Nazi assholes that are going to be like, oh, but you don't understand them. They're disenfranchised, whatever. Obviously, the Donald Trump thing is unreal. The fact that he would say the violence on all sides. I know some people try to diminish it, but it's unbelievable. Like, even with everything that's happened in your country over the past few months and year or so, that is mind-blowing, because you know how you have the Godwin point. You always have people who go to Nazis when you talk about anything, and you're like, oh, come on, you're exaggerating. This is the Godwin point. You're talking about Nazis and it doesn't make sense. Whatever, your argument is invalid. This is actually literally Nazis. Like, there is no argument that can be made more strongly about anything. They are actual Nazis. And there's no way of addressing this. There aren't two ways of addressing this. There isn't any dancing around it. You have to actually say the words, I condemn these white nationalist Nazis. You have to say the words. You can't include, you can't both sides. You have to say those words. And the fact that he didn't say it is,
The best part about it, again, is what I told you earlier. Remember I said, like, just cutting the grass low so now we can see the snakes in the grass? So, again, when good people say, oh, it's not that bad, we're so much better than we were, and I'd be like, oh, no, we're not. Again, I'm not worried about North Korea. I'm not worried about insurgents. I'm not worried about Al-Qaeda. I'm not worried about ISIS. Since I was the age of 5 and I was told, don't go in that part of town because those white people don't like black people, and, kowtow to police and all this other stuff, I've lived my whole life with a general terrorism. Not all white people. Most white people are good, but I've been on the lookout for suicide bombers, and they happen to be Caucasian white males. So that's been my terrorism my whole life. So when Donald Trump comes in, I'm like, look, people are going to realize that we got more stuff to do and it'll be okay. He proves the point by what you just said. And then he comes out 2 days later and tries to clean up because he realized, oh, man, like you said, you had to call that out. You got on Obama for not calling out Muslim terrorists, and then you come out and you call Muslim terrorists by their name. You defame any kind of media directly to name. But when this happens, you can't even say neo-Nazis, white supremacists. You couldn't even give them the cool name of white supremacists. You couldn't even say that. You couldn't even condemn that. You just said all people on all sides. And so now the thing that cracks me up the most is, like, so when you're a Nazi, I'm just sitting there like, you showed up to an event wearing Nikes made in China, wearing polo shirts made in Taiwan. You got tiki torches because you're too lazy to get a stick and a rag and some alcohol and make your own torches. You had some Polynesian heritage from Walmart bought via China again. Like, if you were real Nazis, you'd be butt ass naked in that street with a stick and a flame, because what are you taking back? What do you even make? What do you even do? And then I get mad at myself because I want to believe in free speech. One of my friends was a cop, and he had protection detail on a KKK rally. And he said the strangest thing. He's like, look, first of all, it's overtime. Every cop wants overtime. Second of all, all the hate in my heart bother me, but as an American, I know that they have a right to say what they're going to say. As long as they're not inciting any kind of violence, I stood there, I listened to their speech, and, they have a great PR team going right now. Nazis, KKK, all those people have changed their rhetoric from hate the other races as when they speak out loud. Obviously, they still, when you see the interviews, you can see it seethe over where they still say, niggers this and Jews that. But for the most part, they say, hey, we want blacks to have their own space. We want us to have our own space. We just want their space to happen to be outside of America, but we don't want to kill them or anything. We just want them to have their own nation, their own land. So they got good PR going on. But what the difference is once you throw up that Nazi flag and once you say Zig Heil, now violence is an option for me. If you were just standing there at the podium talking your hateful rhetoric, cool. But once you fly that flag, you're a traitor. Once you start doing this, you deserve to get punched in the face. And that's where I end free speech. And I know that they're probably not threatening at that point, but we fought wars, and how many people died to extinguish that?
There's free speech, but it doesn't mean that they can't be condemned or shunned or ridiculed for it. Because, again, fucking Nazis. Like, how much... And second of all, I forgot what I wanted to say. Second of all, really important thing, the saddest thing about all of it is that the entirety, or a good half of American culture, American pop culture, which has been, mocked and ridiculed as being too black and white, as being too... it's good and evil, and it has been about Nazis, about evil race, the kind of racism that is overt, it calls itself that. And it would seem like movies and TV shows and like the heroic, like freaking Captain America is literally punching Hitler in the face, like punching Nazis in the face. This is what pop culture teaches you, and not just pop culture, history and everything. But even if you set that aside, pop culture teaches you to be a good person and to hate the Nazis because they are evil. No, it's not like there's a debate. Oh, it's the Second Amendment. Oh, it's the right to choose. Oh, it's should gays get married? There could be a debate. Even though I have very strong opinions about those, but the one thing where there's no discussion is Nazis and white supremacists and Nazis who are white supremacists.
Yeah.
And even then, now, by some kind of weird not bipartisan, but divisive magic trick, I guess you're right, it reveals the heart of America. Some people are actually defending Nazis. I can't believe I'm saying this.
Yeah.
People are defending Nazis. This is insane.
And again, it's because of the PR that they've got going on. So education is the problem. When they get to school, they glance over things, and down south, they have all these monuments to Confederate losers that they put up, and they put them up in the late regimes. There are a lot of people who are from the South that were on that side, and before they got out of power, like, hey, let's throw up a statue of General Lee, the Coon Killer. Now, this guy done hung how many slaves and did all this stuff, but he was a general, so let's put him up there as a general. And subconsciously, black people are like, hey, didn't that dude own slaves? They go look it up. They look up the history like, oh, this guy's a slave owner. Why is he being celebrated in the middle of our town? And now they're finally getting around to going through the politics of getting them removed. And then the people in the South are like, oh, they're trying to destroy history and our heritage. No. We're not destroying history. He lost. That's the history. He can stay in history. You can still Google him. You can still read about him in a book. But he lost. And why are we celebrating the dude that lost and who went against the president of the United States at the time? So it's really weird how people wanted to, and in their mind, they're not, some of them aren't defending Nazis. They're defending what they see. And it's like, oh, all these white people are just there, and then the Black Lives Matter shows up, and all they want to do is create violence. I'm like, whoa. In Charlottesville, they were in a predominantly white town, a white college campus, and white people were the first people on the scene to stand up against them. Like, when you watch that video of the Tiki Torch night, it was like 30 or 40 white people chanting Black Lives Matter and stand up against them. So the people have in their mind that they want to say, like, people say to me all the time, the Black Panthers, everybody wants the Black Panthers back. And I'm like, okay. So you're programmed to say Black Panthers versus KKK. How many people have Black Panthers killed in their existence? How many people have the KKK killed? The KKK have killed tens of hundreds of thousands of people, hanging them and doing all this kind of stuff. The Black Panthers had one person that got exiled to go to Cuba who apparently shot somebody. Like, they've never killed anybody. Yes, there's pictures of them with guns because they were there to protect against KKK members. But the way that conflates in history is, oh, the Black Lives Matter, they're violent anyway, they're out here killing people. Well, they're not. They're out there protesting, and they're a mixed group. There's white, Latin, Asian, Black, everybody in that group, when the other group is just all the white supremacists. It's different.
You know what this makes me think of? We were talking about pop culture. Makes me think about Star Wars. Star Wars teaches you, there's the Empire, which is rows and rows of white men dressed the same way, doing the exact same thing, which are the bad guys. And there's the good guys, the rebellion, which is lots of alien races, men, women, all kinds of, like, this is what, anyway, but let's maybe.
That's a good one. I didn't even think about that. As soon as you said it, I instantly saw it on my mind, because, yes, you're right.
And it was created for that, with that intention, not about, teaching you about Nazis, but showing the uniformity of the empire, which was obviously exclusionary, excluding people, and the rebellion being anyway. There's a couple of things I want to add. First, the alt-right trying to label the quote-unquote alt-left as being as bad and giving a name to the alt-left. There's no alt-left. There's people on the left who are, convinced of what they do. They're not violent. They're not. It's complete. It's PR. It's branding, and it's bullshit. The other thing is, maybe this is the straw that breaks the camel back finally. And as I said, there are always going to be people who support Trump, who support the white supremacists, trying to find excuses, saying, but they're just seeing their culture being diluted by, yes, things change, obviously. But maybe a majority of people look at this and think, this is too far for me. Maybe not a majority, but enough of the people who voted for Trump because they were, or who didn't vote, and they were on the fence, and they were like, Hillary is bad and Trump is not so bad, and he says things, and I like him because of that policy that he's going to implement, and blah blah blah. Maybe they look at this and think, that's too much. Nazis is where I put the limit. I think that's a fair, that would be a fair argument to make, and I hope that this makes people decide that this is not for them. That at that point they can still stand behind it. Maybe it's not going to happen, but I'm hoping.
So, last thing, what's your favorite food?
Wow, I have so many.
Give me two. No.
Okay.
Give me a favorite dish. Give me a favorite dessert. You seem like a dessert guy.
Okay, I am a dessert guy.
You see?
You got me. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so. Favorite food. I have to choose one.
Okay, give me two. Come on, because you travel. Right. I know you got the international flavor. Go ahead, give me two things.
It's sort of a combo, so I'll do the both at the same time. It's ramen from a couple of specific shops. They have stores in Paris, but also in Japan. It's basically
Japan ramen is amazing. Obviously,
yes. Ippudo is wonderful. I love it. I go to Paris, to their Paris store every time I can. And along with that, gyoza, which they often go together, so it's fair. Gyoza, when it's well done, is wonderful. So it's Japanese stuff. Although it comes from China originally, but really it's Japanese.
Yeah.
So that's the dish.
They perfected it.
Yeah, absolutely. Dessert. I could go with a ton of French pastries that have been, perfected over centuries. I would recommend anyone who goes to Paris go to La Pâtisserie des Rêves, which is basically the pastry shop of dreams, where they do amazing pastries that you would blow your mind. But I think I'm going to go and honor my the Finnish part of me, which currently loves the Fatser chocolate. It's just milk chocolate with tiny bits of hazelnut, and it's delicious chocolate. It's just it's not like high super expensive stuff, something you can buy in the store, but it's really nice. Fatser chocolate.
When the winter time comes, I'm gonna have you send me a few bars so it'll hold over the travel. If people don't, when you don't travel, you don't understand. When I went to Germany and I ate some chocolate, I was like almost weirded out because it was so like smooth and sweet. Over here, everything is like got so many chemicals and it's more bitter. There, like milk chocolate is milk chocolate. Like it is a whole different world of chocolate. Like that chocolate's like in my brain what Willy Wonka's chocolate would be like just so yeah. But you look like a pastry dude. So now that we switch, see how quick I can switch gears and get back to smiling and happiness.
Very nice.
So go ahead and plug stuff. You're not Patrick on Twitter. What else you got going on in your life?
So I guess I do French language shows mostly. If people didn't get it, I'm a French person, so I speak French most of the time. You can find those shows at FrenchSpin.com. There's tech, gaming, all sorts of stuff. But if you speak English, I guess the one show I would recommend is the Phileas Club. Phileas from Phileas Fogg around the world in 80 days, all of that. And it's about people talking about international stuff, but it's people from different countries. So you will get, one American, one French person, one Thai, and one Saudi who are going to be spending an hour together talking about the stuff that's been happening in their region of the world, bringing their culture, their opinion to the table, and hopefully give us a different take on things we already know. And we do that about once a month, and it's available at FrenchSpin.com. There's a couple of other things there as well.
Yeah, you go there, you get a smorgasbord. I've been on the show. Thanks for being on my show. I appreciate it. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
It was super fun. Good time had by all, I think, and by all it's just you and me, so it doesn't matter.
That's the most important thing. As long as we have a good time,
it is the most important thing. And last thing I'll tell you too is like I always like mess with my daughter, and like I tell her I speak French. Like when we get pastries, and I be like, croissant, biscuit, enchanté. Like she just can't stand it. I do it until her face turns red and she asks me to stop, especially when we're in public. I call her my little croissant, so it's a horrible. I'm destroying.
It sounds wonderful.
So yes, again, you can support this show on Patreon, and if you like I said, I don't even really care about that. I got money right now, so if you're broke, I get it. Just click like wherever you see it. I appreciate all the people that watch live on Periscope.
But you know what? If you appreciate what Owen does, if you appreciate the O Doctor, take the couple of minutes it will take you to go to Patreon and subscribe, and just $1 is fine if you have the money to spare. Because it takes I know how much work it takes to put all of these things together. It's not easy, and to keep it going for a long time. So, don't take it for granted. So just my 2 cents on that topic.
I appreciate that. See, I'm the worst at promote myself because I hate ask people for money, but he is right. And so if you have it, like I said, I will shake it for you. And Patreons, if you're listening, since I had to take some time off for shows, I'm going to give you guys special where I'm going to give you guys my phone number. I'm going to call you guys individually. We could talk for like 20 minutes and chat it up and live the dream, because I want to get to know the people that are giving me money every month and that do support me. And I want to tell you directly, thank you. So if you're listening to this, you can email me and say, you said you was going to call me. Now, if you're not listening, then you're not going to know that I was going to call. So come and get your money's worth, baby. I'm trying to give it to you. Thanks again. Bye, everybody.